Okay, so today we are going to build the muscles of the face using our mannequins. And what you're going to need is just the torso of the mannequin. And then you're going to need a little bit of clay. You need a chunk of brown, a fairly big chunk like that, maybe like a racquetball size chunk. Just a tiny bit of yellow, that's much more than you need. Tiny bit of your choice of color. This is going to be the eye color for your mannequin. So green, brown, blue, whatever you want. You'll need the wire tool, and then just a little dry strip of paper towel to clean up is helpful too. And then you're also going to want to open your device to the PowerPoint because you're going to kind of go through that to look at the pictures and take the notes. So we're going to make the muscles of the face, and we're going to start by making what's called the frontalis muscle, and we're going to go muscle by muscle. I would encourage you to take notes as we go along and only write down what's highlighted in gray, because as we go through, the gray bar will move over the relevant muscle and that'll just help keep you focused. If you want to pause the video and do coloring in your coloring packet, you can do that too. So let's start with the frontalis. The frontalis is this muscle in the front of your face. It's on the forehead basically. And to make that, I'm going to take a chunk of brown clay and just pull off a little bit of it. Maybe about the size of, I don't know, a cherry tomato. And I'm going to roll it into a ball. And then I'm going to just kind of smear it onto the table. I'm going to flatten it into a disc. The shape of it doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it on my mannequin. I'm going to try and make it look like this figure right here. So to do that, I'm just going to smack it over. And then I'm going to use my wire tool to carve it out and make it look appropriate. So obviously this should go, so I'll tear that off. You'll see that it attaches kind of at the top of the head, just above the eyes. So I'll kind of use my wire tool to remove some of that. And then you'll notice that it doesn't go over the side of the mannequin at all. So I'm going to just use my wire tool to cut that around like that. Okay, so now I've got roughly the shape of the frontalis muscle, and you'll notice on your own head there isn't like this 90-degree cliff here or here. Everything smooths out. So I'm going to use my thumb to just smooth that into the skull to make a nice smooth transition. This actually connects to some connective tissue on top of your skull. I'll do the same thing down here just to kind of smooth it out. The last thing you need to do to make this frontalis muscle is add these little vertical lines. These are called striations, and they essentially show the muscle fibers. So you can kind of think of these as like the boundaries between spaghetti noodles, and they're vertical on this particular muscle. And they can go up here, up top as well. I shouldn't have done it so short. Whatever. And so when this muscle shortens, it's going to shorten along that axis, and this muscle is going to raise your eyebrows. And so if you look at my face, I will use my own frontalis muscle. It's just this kind of a thing right here, just when you lift your eyebrows. Okay? So that's the frontalis muscle. The next muscle is called the temporalis muscle. And the temporalis muscle is on the side here. And so once again, you're going to need some clay about the same size, cherry tomato-ish. And this time you're going to roll it into a ball. But then you're going to roll it into kind of a strawberry shape. So you're going to, it's kind of like you're making a snake, but your hand is angled, so you're pushing down harder on one side than the other. So I'm going to kind of press down like that, and you can kind of see what I'm doing. And it kind of makes it into a strawberry shape. And then once you have the strawberry, you can kind of flatten it out by kind of pushing it out that way and pushing it out that way. And the goal, if that didn't go as well for you, you can just kind of make it look like this. The goal is to have this kind of fairly long, skinny extension coming out here. Now, this muscle, the temporalis, goes over the temporal bone, and this extension tucks underneath the zygomatic arch, and it attaches to the mandible right there. So I'm just going to shove that in there, and you can see it's not quite long enough. It doesn't work very well. It's a little too fat, so I'll just kind of adjust it as need be. So it's going to go under that zygomatic arch. Boy, I'm struggling here. And if worse comes to worse, you can break and fake, where you just kind of make it look like it does what I want it to do. So there we go. So it attaches to the back of the mandible, and then it's going to cover this temporal bone. Now you can see, again, I airballed. That's not what it's supposed to look like. So I can use my wire tool to fix that and just kind of carve it out how it's supposed to be. And again, I want to smooth that out over this area so there's not these big abrupt drop-offs. And there it is. So you can see the temporalis muscle right there. Now to striate this one, it turns out that the striations kind of extend from this point and they radiate out like a fan, like that. And what that means is all of this surface area is applied to this tip, which makes a very powerful pulling on this. And the motion of this muscle, and you can look at my face and see it, it's just hump. It just closes the jaw, hump. So all of this muscle along the side of my head here is all applied to this point to bring that jaw closed, and that's part of what makes our jaw muscles so strong. The next step is we're gonna make some cheek fat pads. So for that, take just like a pea-sized bit of yellow, just the tiniest amount, and roll it into a little ball. And you're just gonna shove that right in that little gap. The reason I like to do this is because you should have a nice healthy bit of cheek fat there. If someone is starving or maybe they have an eating disorder, sometimes they have that kind of skeletal look because that fat is not there, and so the skin sinks down and you can really see the outline of the zygomatic bone. So good healthy mannequin should have a little cheek fat, I figure. And then we're gonna make the eyes. To do this, same kind of deal. Take whatever eye color you chose, roll it into a pea-sized shape, and you can just kind of flatten that one into a circle. And kind of just sort of creepily, just kind of cover it up. Mine's a little large, but that's fine. That doesn't look amazing at this point, but we're gonna do something to make it look a little cooler than that. So back to our muscles. Our next muscle is the Orbicularis oculi. Whenever you say that word orbicularis, think orbit. This is a circular muscle. Oculi, think ocular, so eye. This is a circular muscle around the eye. And you can see that right here and right here. So to make this, you're just gonna take a chunk of clay and a fairly small amount, maybe like, I don't know, the size of a peanut M&M or something like that. And you're gonna roll that into a snake, fairly skinny, and you're just gonna turn it into a circle. And you want that circle to match the perimeter of that. So my clay is too long, which is fine. I'm just gonna break it off to fit that length. So, a little bit long still. So basically you just want this circular muscle around the eye, and the striations actually go around this border of the circle like that. And so when this muscle shortens, it has the effect of just basically pulling the whole eye shut. In fact, this attaches to your eyelids, and this is responsible for closing your eye. The next muscle is the masseter. This is the strongest muscle in the body relative to its size. The gluteus maximus in your butt is actually the strongest, but relative to its size, it's the masseter. And it's this big one on the jaw. And for this muscle, you again want to do maybe a peanut M&M, maybe even a little bit less. And I always kind of roll it into a ball and then like a very fat, stocky snake, kind of like that. And this muscle is actually going to cover up the temporalis muscle. They actually attach roughly in the same place. So I'm going to shove that under the zygomatic arch And again, it should be a smooth transition there. You don't feel this big jump out in your own face, so we shouldn't have it on our mannequin face. So it attaches to the bottom of the zygomatic arch, and then it attaches to the bottom of the jaw, and the striations are vertical. And so this works with the temporalis to help close the jaw. And in fact, if you look at my face, if I clench my jaw, you can feel a little bulge right there. That is the masseter muscle right there bulging out. The next muscle, the Orbicularis oris. So Orbicularis should clue you in. This is a circular shaped muscle. Oris, think oral for mouth. This is a circular muscle around the mouth, and basically it's your lips. And you can see they did kind of sexy Michael Jackson lips right there. We're not quite that skilled. So what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of clay, like a peanut M&M again, and I'm gonna do what I did for the eye, the Orbicularis oculi. I'm just gonna roll it into a skinny snake. And this should be a circular muscle, except I only have half of a face, so I'm only gonna need half of a circle. So this muscle goes around like that, and I'm just gonna break it off, and if the whole mannequin was there, we would see the rest of that circle. But since we only have half a face, we have half a circle, and the striations are again gonna follow the circular border of this. And this is again involved in moving your lips. So if you're gonna smooch somebody, you'd use this, and that kind of makes your lips protrude out like that. The final muscle we're gonna build is called the Zygomaticus. This is a fairly small muscle. It attaches to the zygomatic bone and then to the Orbicularis oris right here. So you need just a tiny bit. I happen to have a tiny bit, maybe a regular size M&M rolled into a snake. And it's gonna attach to the zygomatic bone right here, and then to the Orbicularis oris muscle there. And the striations are going to be along the long axis like that. And this muscle, as you might expect when it shortens, is gonna pull up on your lips. And so if you look at my face, it just kind of, it's this fake smile, kind of, that kind of movement. So that's the Zygomaticus. With the rest of the muscles, if you look at the computer screen, we're not going to build anymore, but you should go through and just click through these slides and just kind of read through these. I'd encourage you to write these down, and then you can color them in your coloring packet if you want, and then we'll talk about them briefly in class as well. Thank you.